All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Crypto Casual. Let me ask you a couple questions right off the bat. Uh, and I know it sounds a little weird, but just for the most part right now, let me bring up my notes. What keeps you struggling financially? And more importantly, why do you keep choosing to struggle? And not only financially, but in other areas of your life, such as health and wealth or love. Now, I can't answer those questions for you, only you can answer those questions. But what we can do is get some framework around it and see if that helps you. Because we got to lay a foundation of knowing who we are, how we think, why we think what we think, take responsibility for what we think. And when we start taking responsibility, we become richer in the way in which we present ourselves. Not only to ourselves, but the world. And so it's authentic, if you want to use that word. I know it's overused in today's new age, but you're the author of your own ship, and you can direct your ship in any direction you want. And so we can direct our financial ship out of the hardship and then get it into a place that is comfortable in a financial perspective, such as, do you need 100,000 a year, 200? Do you need 7 figures, 8 figures? I don't know what that is for any of you, but what I can say is that if we look at where we're at, we call that present state, and we want to get to a desired state. And that desired state is, where would you like to be? And the only thing that's preventing us from bridging that gap or crossing that bridge, if you will, is you, and it's your thoughts. So if we can change the thoughts, we can have the desired state of what we want. And if it's things, great, that's up to you. If it's more internal representations and honesty, that then can be presented to the public in an honest, authentic manner, great. But the goal here is to understand how we learn, how we perceive. And once we understand that, then we can go ahead and apply that to areas of our life, and particularly here, because this is a crypto educational platform, if you will. So we want to make sure that our foundation is laid on solid granite, if you will. So for now, let's just get on with it. All right. So this is Crypto Casual. I'm your host, Chuck, your esoteric coach. We'll just put it that way. Here at Crypto Casual, it's not a detailed what you see in some of these other videos or influencers in this space of cryptocurrency. For me, it's more about let's having a conversation. So here at Crypto Casual, we like to casually talk about cryptocurrencies, BTC, finances, and we do it with a sort of an esoteric perspective. Our perspectives are not right or wrong. It's just having a conversation. Today, in our divisional society, we can't always have equal or just a casual conversations about stuff, because basically everyone's thought about anything is just an opinion, because, as I said in earlier videos, we don't have all the facts. And one of the sayings I had a long time ago that I heard was, fact is not always truth, and truth is not always fact. So that helped me put things in perspective. And we'll talk about that a little later. But if you will, just take a moment out of your life here, and if you like these videos, if you like the content, if you don't, let me know what you would like to hear about or talk about or further or more in detail. Just comment below, but for now, hit that like button. Subscribe, click on the notification bell if you want to keep getting these videos, and definitely help support. I know these are early videos. I'm going to be upgrading everything later, but I just need to get started. But in the future, the content will be in the background, and all will be a whole lot better for me. All right. So what is the purpose of Crypto Casual? Well, it's just to show successful strategies and educational frameworks on how to grow a simple and rich life. If you want a difficult life, go for it. For me, I like simple, and I like a wealthy lifestyle. And that doesn't mean a whole bunch of things. It means doing what I want when I want. And whatever amount of currency or money that entails, then I will arrange my life to create that so I can live the way in which I want to. So it's not really about an end goal result of a whole bunch of zeros. It's just doing what I want when I want. And that is, for me, an amazing feeling. And that's by educating yourself on how to get there is also an amazing motivating feeling as well. So let's just get on with that. So how are we going to learn these strategies? We're going to do it through a little bit of understanding the esoteric, and then about consciousness. I mean, that's sort of a vague term, not only in science, but also in a whole bunch of esoteric fields. Consciousness basically is just awareness, and we'll keep it simple for right now. And we're going to learn more about cryptocurrencies, because we want to direct our personal sovereignty, our soul sovereignty, making that money or attracting that money, real money, not debased money like fiat, but real money, gold, silver, cryptos, is attracting those to us. And the more we hustle, the more we learn about ourselves, the more we can attract the things that we want, not what we don't want. So hopefully that makes sense to you. All right, and just right off the bat, I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not your spiritual guru. I'm not here to make you feel better. I'm not here to answer your questions as far as what's personal for you. I can only give you my perspectives. My perspectives aren't right or wrong. So eventually, everything we're talking about, the ultimate responsibility is yours to learn. And we'll get in more into what motivates you in the learning process. But do your own research, and especially when it comes to cryptocurrencies, don't invest more than what you're willing to lose. If you're willing to lose and you're okay with it, great. But if you're not, if you're mortgaging the house and if something goes wrong or awry, you lose your money, you lost your wallet, then that's not a feeling you want, right? We're after simple, rich feelings. We normally have the format of the day, which is an esoteric, insightful question, the behavioral framework that we'll get to help our minds understand why we think the way we think so we can attract the things we want. And we normally have some sort of education on the crypto space of, there's a lot of terms thrown around these days, so I'm going to take one of these words and break it down and show you and help you understand a little better of what the crypto space is saying. We can watch videos all day long, but if we don't know what it is they're saying, then we're just wasting our time. I'll give some sort of news of the day, a strategy of the day, of maybe with cryptocurrencies. We'll look at the prices. We'll look at top 3 coins I like of that day, and normally the influencer, and then a book of the day. So let's get on with it. I don't want to make these videos too long. I'm trying to keep them under around 15 minutes. Some of them are going a little longer. That's just me getting used to the format. I've studied stuff in my entire life, which I'll touch on in a minute, but I've studied a vast amount of information, so to cram it down into about a 10-minute segment, for me, is taking something very broad, and then when you have to do it specific, it's a challenge sometimes, so I enjoy a challenge. So let's get on with it. So for me, we're coming into a state, and I talked about this briefly in some of the other videos, that we're coming into a state of consciousness, a new state of consciousness. I call it the Second Coming, the new Christ consciousness. It's not religious. It has no belief systems behind it. It's just a faster, quicker, or a faster and quicker, same thing, a faster, higher frequency, which is still faster, but you can put more information or download more cosmic information, like Einstein's, the Teslas of the world. They were able to download because their brains were receptive to receive it at such a fast pace. So by acquiring more information and more technology, our brain waves have sped up, if you will. And I'm not going to go scientific here. I can go deep in the medical stuff, but I'm not. Because that's not the point of this presentation. Our brains are beginning to see what's beyond our own thoughts. We've been conditioned to look at things a certain way from religions, politics, schools, and whatnot, our parents. But we're beginning to see things outside our own conditioning, which in one essence is taking away the border. So Bitcoin for me, in the consciousness of the whole of the ecosystem of crypto, is just a higher, faster, borderless, permissionless. Right? I don't need anyone's permission to talk to a deity out in the sky, or I don't need anyone's permission to send my money around the world. So energy should be. I shouldn't have to ask anyone to use cosmic energy. Right? But I do first need to be educated on how to harness it and use it properly. And that's what this channel is all about. Again, it's esoteric in base. So if you want to look at it, that we're literally using the cosmic interstate of electromagnetic consciousness to move valuable information. Now, we can look at value as your own thoughts, or we can look at those thoughts of cryptocurrencies or real money or whatnot. We can't transport gold, tons of gold overnight. We need millions of dollars to even support moving all that money, and it's very costly. But to move Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies around the world, one, I don't need anyone's permission, and it's very valuable information because it can buy me goods and services. So let me touch briefly on sort of how I was, how I wired myself, if you will, and we'll call this a behavioral framework. So my father always encouraged us to, all of us kids, to sort of question authority and question everything. Just because someone tells you something, again, because now I know that everything's just an opinion, because we don't all have the big picture. We have segments of parts, but we don't have the entire panoptic perspective. Most of us live in a very myopic, some in the synoptic. We get a little bit of it, and we think we know a lot, but we really don't. So honestly, no one really knows anything. And when we try to convince others, then that deals with an internal representation of trying to prove yourself. And we can get into that stuff later. But I've always been inquisitive because I was sort of set up to ask questions or challenge authority, or challenging what someone says or the status quo. And so that basically led me to be inquisitive. And so my interests, I just started studying what I wanted. I went through school, went to the colleges, all that good stuff, but I only took what I wanted to take. I didn't need anyone's permission, if you will. If they had a curriculum and they said, you need to go study that, I just ignored it and studied what I wanted. Or I got it, in one sense, at that time, I had to get the permission of a professor to say, hey, I want your class, I don't want this other class, would you sign off on it? And they would, for the most part. So basically, I've just studied what I've wanted to study. And part of that, in a very broad sense, because it's definitely not limited to everything I'm telling you here, is broadly, I like finance, money. I like studying it. I like studying the history of money. But more specifically, because that's like a broad interest, but specific interest goes down the paranormal, the esoteric, mythological, parapsychology, psychology, religions, NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. I've studied that for about 20 years and pretty much all the frameworks in that. So I like also studying the economic patterns and cycles. I try to read about 5 books a week, and I'm not saying that to brag, but my mind just loves knowledge, and the more knowledge you have, the more rational, responsible decisions you can make, if that makes sense. I'm hoping you follow me. I know I'm going on a little rant today, but this channel is going to be about educating people, not just about buying, not just about finances. Because in order to get the finances, you have to be wealthy financially. Some of the criteria is that you have to be financially sound in your mind, in your heart, and your soul, and all that good stuff. So we can go. You can see where I can go on so many tangents here, but I want to stick to a script as best as I can, because if not, I will be all over the place. I'm used to speaking for 2 to 3 hours at a time and lecturing, so putting in 10 or 15 minutes is very challenging for me, as you can tell. So when I learned to question everything, and I understood that once I questioned everyone and everything about what they were trying to tell me, is that I knew that truth is not always fact, and again, fact was not always truth. Religions think their truth is the truth, but it's not based in fact. Science, they think they're based in fact, and they think their facts are truth. And again, I'm generalizing here. I'm not saying everyone in each of these categories believe that, but it's a general consensus. And they try to push it. If they want to push drugs on you, if they could, because they think the facts show that it's good for you. And other religions will say, no drugs in us at all. So who's right, who's wrong? For me, it's not about who's right and wrong, what works for you. So the more I was able to read, the more I was able to make rational, responsible decisions, as I said before. So the more I studied the esoteric and finances, those two worlds sort of merged together. One of my early programs was called Soul Mechanics, and nowadays there's 2 or 3 soul mechanics teaching basically the same thing I did, and they didn't really get my permission, but hey, share the wealth. You know, I can come up with more stuff. I create stuff all the time. So if their conscious is cool with it, I'm cool with it. But soul mechanics is bridging both the mechanical, structural world with the spiritual world. And I'm not going to go into the history of that, but these days, one of the components of soul mechanics was electrical theology, and these are both trademarked and copyrighted and stuff. So electrical theology is taking the conscious frameworks and then tying it into we'll call it the matrix world of health, wealth, and love. So these two worlds merge together. So basically it's the esotericism of money. And so the esoteric, the metaphysical, the consciousness, I just combine that with cryptocurrencies because, again, for me, it's all electrical. Bitcoin is electric. It's backed by electricity. It's supported by everyone's electricity and the use of that electricity around the world. And so, but we need our own esoteric, our internal spirituality, if you will, whatever that is for any of you. But we got to have a solid internal flow of that energy in order to transform it into another energy that we can utilize in this matrix. So basically, what we're coming into is a new consciousness for humans. Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon, Australopithecus, Homo habilis. These guys aren't around anymore. And to think that we humans, in the form we are now, that we think we're going to be around in 25 or 100 years, you're sadly mistaken. Because all the other ones thought they would be around. And it's not, we can be wiped out cataclysmically with something, or a disease can wipe us all out, or something can happen. So we need to augment and upgrade. And what we're going through right now is a conscious upgrade, which is just faster energy, electricity. And then if you're open to receiving this faster electricity, you can download more information. And Bitcoin is a representation, a formula, a format, if you will, that is an extension of this new consciousness. And in the new wealth, and our governments around the world are changing how they're structuring finances and how they're going to distribute these finances. So Bitcoin is just a representation. I don't look at it as a religion. I can call it the second consciousness. I can call it the Christ consciousness. I can call it the second coming. But the second coming is just a new upgrade of our consciousness. And we talked about that in earlier videos. So if you want to go back to that, or if you want to know more information about it, great. But for me, the second coming of this new Christ consciousness, this faster consciousness, basically is free. It's peace-oriented. It's incentivized. It's permissionless, borderless, cheaper, faster, more secure. And we talked about those things. I think at length already. But again, if you want to know more information about anything, just let me know. So basically, the second consciousness is just awareness of oneself without borders, right? Without the conditionings of our societies. So my mind, body, spirit, emotion, thoughts, I'm responsible for all those actions, nobody else. If you're blaming and faulting, if you're triggered by everyone's opinions, and you're sensitive, hypersensitive to everything, then this is, and if that lifestyle works for you, man, live it. But if it doesn't, then you have to take responsibility for your thoughts, your actions, emotions, because you're the one thinking them. No one else is. No one's putting those thoughts into your head. Yes, we can get into conspiracies and aliens and 5Gs putting thoughts in our head. We can talk that another time. But for now, let's stick to the point that we're just, because we're open to this new consciousness, it creates a new subconscious and then a superconscious. And we don't have enough time to talk about those, but you can see where these topics can definitely go. So in order to increase our financial wealth, we have to open up and create our educational wealth, our personal wealth, right? Our internal representation wealth. So because my soul's always craving knowledge, it just wants knowledge, intuitive and logical knowledge. And most of what I experience my entire life was always opposite or opposing to the mainstream narrative. So a lot of times I got the experience to argue my points and debate my points. So naturally, I'm just somewhat, I'll just call it a cognitive casual rebel. Because whatever the mainstream says, most of the time, it's not the narrative I want to subscribe to. And my subscriptions to anyone's narratives are temporary at best. And the only narrative that is my own, and that changes every day. The more I learn, the more my consciousness changes. So this merging, it helps both my logical, intuitive sides amp up, right? That second consciousness, there's more energy flowing. So when I question everyone and everything, and they tell me something, I'm going to go research it. So if you tell me something, I'm going to go research it to see if you actually subscribe to what it is you're teaching, or if you have more information than I do, I am open to hearing it. So all information, for the most part, again, is still limited. It doesn't mean I know everything by any means. Hell, I barely know anything. The more I study, again, the more I don't know, because it's just more and more opinions. So all the information I have is just basically a limited perspective at best. My stuff is not truth, it's not fact, and it's not always conducive to someone else's opinions, and that's okay. It is okay for us to disagree and still be friends. So there's a lot of what we'll call anarcho-capitalists, anarchists, and anarchy. Archy is basically just synonymous with government. Government is to govern the mind. So I'm opposite about governing the mind by someone else. I want to govern my own mind. So anarchy for me is just anti-government, but anti-governing the mind. I'm not political. I'm not here to take anyone down. I'm not here to fight any institution because I don't know their whole picture. I don't know why they do what they do. I don't know the global agenda. I don't know all theirs. I can read everything and go down every rabbit hole, but I still will never end up knowing. The only thing I do know is me, and hell, I barely know that. But the more I work on me, the more my external world becomes better. So I just observe and educate myself, and I love the, like I said, the esoteric finances, and I'm just merging those worlds together. So my own sort of representational observations aren't right or wrong; they're just my perspectives, and those perspectives can be externalized in a external representation, which is just what you see right now. Is who I'm not here to impress, I'm not here to prove, I'm just here to share information and knowledge. You like it, great. If you don't, I can't stop you from not. And I just appreciate those who are liking it. And again, make sure you like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And what's healthy is that we need both the positive and the negative. And I mean that electrical. We need both pull, we need both repellation to repel, and we need the attraction, because they both work in their own rightful ways within the universe. So each person in people and institutions both serve a purpose. You can like them or not like them, but they serve a purpose. Without cops, we have no use for criminals. Or without criminals, we have no use for cops. Without sick people, we have no use for doctors. You see my point? Without a devil, we have no use for gods, right? So we can look at that we need both the esoteric and the exoteric. We need the internal, external to help us gauge and balance ourselves. So we need both certainty and uncertainty in our life. We need both poverty and rich, right? So again, so we can compare, so we can understand what it is with balance of what we're observing. Centralized versus decentralized. We're leaving the centralized system and coming into the decentralized systems, those who are choosing, right? So one of the questions is, why are you choosing to struggle financially? Is because you're probably still subscribing to the centralized system, which they dictate for you what you need for your life. And the decentralized is, we are borderless. We don't need their permission. And again, nothing against them or for them. You just have to look at what it is. I can integrate both of these worlds. I can both do the centralized and the decentralized. And I'm okay with that. I can do the alternative health and I can do allopathic. I'm fine with that. They both work. I can chant and put drum circles all day long, but it's not going to heal my leg that's shattered in 50 million places. They need pins and needles and a whole bunch of operations and doctors and we'll call it, not in any disrespect, but the glorified mechanics. They can put this Humpty Dumpty back together again, right? Chanting ain't going to put it back together. Me believing all the consciousness in the world can heal this, that's great, but I'm not there. So I need both worlds is my point. So we both need coaches in our life because we also need the players. So you're getting my point of the opposites. And again, this video is going to be a little long. It's okay. I may break it into two, but I think I'm just going to run it. You can watch it at your convenience or speed it up 100 thing and listen to it in 10 minutes. So basically, the blockchain consciousness, as I'll call it, is freeing myself from other people's beliefs or restrictions, perspectives, and judgments. So I can then, again, start working on me, right? And I'm not saying that from a hocus-pocus standpoint. I'm saying I'm always improving me. I'm not perfect, nor will I ever be, nor do I want to be, but I do want to always improve and better myself. So, so we want to look at healthy wealth education. And where do you think this starts? It starts with you, right? So start educating yourself about what you want to educate yourself on. We got to be dedicated to the education. Right, we got to look at what our blocks are to that education, and we'll get into some of that today, and I'll do another video later because this one's already getting long. We'll look at what your financial beliefs are and why you believe the way. Who told you about money? How were you shown money? Whose opinions about money did you adopt or subscribe to? So we're going to erase those and look at what works for you and what doesn't work for you and build up your own financial wealth. And we'll have to look at some frameworks. Some psychological frameworks. We'll look at NLP frameworks and so forth. So if I can put it this way, is that your healthy and balanced financial growth can be external, exoteric, representation and reflection that is proportionate to your internal, esoteric growth. I know that's a lot of words right there. So basically, if you want a healthy, balanced financial life, a healthy financial life, then it will be proportionate to the time you spend on yourself, is what I'm saying. So the more time you spend on yourself and understand and take responsibility for it, you grow. So therefore, magnetically, electromagnetically, that from the universe will also grow around you and repel that which you don't want. It will repel poverty mindset and bring in rich mindset and rich people and rich perspectives and rich cryptos, right? It'll show you, you'll be attracted to those cryptos that were going to go up 1,000-fold, 100-fold, right? So you get my point. You see where I'm coming from? So basically, there's this bridge. Again, we talked about present state where you are now, and then we're going to go into desired state. And we got to bridge that gap. And what is that bridge? What is that gap? It's you. It's what you don't know. So we're going to explore what you don't know, because we don't know what we don't know, as it said, if that makes sense. So the amount of commitment, basically, the amount of work you're going to want to hustle and put into, and that you're willing to put into your financial education, is about the same amount that you put into educating yourself about yourself. Because we need to understand why we believe what we believe. Where did you understand and where did you get these beliefs? All beliefs are built on the past, right? The ego is associated with the past because it doesn't know how to make up anything else. It just reverts back to a belief system. All belief systems are built on the past. Well, if you want to open up to the new consciousness, you have to be in the unfolding moment, the undefended moment. And we can get into that some other time, but we'll just keep going. So the frameworks for learning that we talked about is how to learn. And so how to learn is, first and foremost, do you want to learn what you want to learn? Because if you're not motivated, you're not really going to learn it, right? How many classes in school did you sit through and going, oh, I can't see myself using it, this is useless. And you never got good grades on it because you weren't interested in it. So start learning what you want to learn, or what interests you. That's going to help your internal self grow so your external world can grow as well. So we got to look at the motivation levels, because if you remain the same of where you are, that's your choice. That was my second question at the beginning, is why are you still choosing to struggle? because the only person creating the struggle is you. Again, if you blame outside environments, then you're not taking responsibility, because you have free will to take that thought and change it. You can go educate yourself about what you don't understand about the control that you think someone has over you. So we got to look at your motivation. So if you want to stay the same, don't do anything different. If you want to change, you want more, you want borderless, you want all this permissionless stuff, then you're going to have to educate yourself. So you're going to have to hustle. So if you want to change, then change the way you've been educating yourself. So we got to look at what some of the obstacles of learning are. Understanding the material. If you don't understand the material, you're not going to absorb it. If you're motivated, you're going to absorb it. And part of the motivation process is to take what you don't know and go understand what you don't know, and break it down to small little pieces until you finally do understand it. Right? And if you don't, ask others for help. Have them look at it and go, hey, what is it about this? Can you break this down for me so I can see it? Can you draw me a diagram? Later on, I'll have more diagrams, because other people learn through visual, tactile. They need to see you do it, or they need to see a picture or a diagram. There's 5 main ways people learn, and we can get into that some other time. But basically, is the information you're learning important to you? Right? Yes, numbers, ones and zeros can be boring, and technical can be boring, but is it an important part of your life? Right? And even if you're learning this, do you agree or disagree with this information? It's okay to agree or disagree with the information. A lot of times we take an argumentative standpoint about the information, but we're doing it because we want to get more information, right? We want more information, so we challenge someone to give us that more information. If they don't, then we're not going to go any further sometimes, or some of us will go actually ask somebody else until we do get that information. So we just got to look at, do we agree or disagree? That's great. Why do you disagree with it? And especially if it's going to help you become more or become better, if you will. So we got to look at what's not making sense to you about what you're learning. So we got to understand each and every word. We got to know what each and every definition are. A lot of us use words that we really don't know the definition, and I'm using Oxford and all these dictionaries. We don't know the etymology or the breakdown or the beginning or the word origin, if you will, to all this stuff. So the more you break down a singular word, because if you read a sentence and you're not getting it, it's because somewhere one of those words, you don't really understand the meaning behind it. You think you do because we use it every day, but when you break it down, most people can't define. When I ask them a simple, what's the word just mean? They go back and forth, right? Because there's 100 meanings for that word, and how you apply it is different. But if you're reading a sentence with that word in it, and you think it means something else, or you only know it to mean something else, like the word cleave. Cleave is both to attach and sever, right? But if you use it in a sentence, someone else thinks you're saying something else because they only know it by one of the meanings, and you think you're using the other meaning, then you're going to have miscommunication. So what we do with our own selves is we have a lot of miscommunications with ourselves. So understand each and every word. Reread that sentence 3 or 4 times and look at each and every word in that sentence and break it down to its smallest part until you understand it, and then reapply it. So put the words to an analogy. So basically put it into your own words. After you sort of understand it, put it into your own scenario. Put it into a practical application. Put it into a sentence or story, however your brain absorbs the information, or tell someone else about it, and until it makes sense to you. And once it makes sense to you, then that opens up more energy. Yeah? All right, let's keep going. So we talked about giving it, and once you understand that, give it a real world application. Go take what you just learned and apply it somewhere in your life, right? My mind wants to go in a whole totally different direction, but energy basically, or when we learn something and we gain more energy for it, it just transforms, and it looks different, and it presents itself different, and it sounds different, it feels different. So for an example, I can make ice and then turn that ice into steam by heating it up, and then that steam rises and it becomes rain, we'll just say, and that rain falls back into the ground, and then it gets absorbed by a plant within its veins, and now it's lifeblood for a plant, and then we eat that plant, right? So energy never really goes away. It's the law of conservation, but it never really goes away, it just transforms. And so when we are having to release some of our old ways, it's not really going away, right? So we don't need to hold on to it. It's just we're allowing it to transform itself into something new. And right now, for me, the newness, the consciousness of where I can put a practical application of my awareness is through Bitcoin, because it's a perfect platform to express my new understood information or energy. So I can put my energy out there and have it transform exponentially, right? So once you understand, again, share it with others. For me, it's all about sharing knowledge. Not everyone's going to like my knowledge. That's okay. They may not like my personality or how I look. That's okay. I'm okay with that, because it's their issue, not mine. I'm okay with me. I dig me, right? I dig what I learn, how I learn. I love the people I'm around. I love sharing information. I love the people who love hearing the information. So by understanding what you have learned, you then create consciously richness. And the more you learn, in some sense, it gets simpler. Because the more we break something down that we thought was something, like a bad dream, we can break that dream down and look at each and every part of that dream, and it's all you anyway, because who's dreaming it? The emotional way you felt about that dream is you thinking that thought. It's you feeling that, and for why. We can look deeper into that in another episode. This one's long enough. So guys, I appreciate you. Again, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Notification bell. If you like this stuff, great. Leave me a message. If you didn't, great. Let me know what it wasn't, and let me know what I can go into more or less than. And we'll sort of get back to the old format of what I was talking about a couple of days ago of the day, book of the day, influencer of the day, price of the day, thought of the day. All right, guys, long enough. I appreciate you. Love you. And look forward to the next episode. Bye. Keep it casual.